Hello, I'm Elaine Parrish. Joining me today is Valerie Sokolosky, author and founder of Valerie and Company. Valerie is an executive coach and a master personal brand strategist. Our topic today, personal branding. So I think we want to start at the very beginning. What is branding, Valerie?
Well, let's get on the same page here and first talk about just a brand, like a logo brand. Every year there is a survey done that touts the world's strongest brands, right? And one of them, let's say, is Disney, which it is. If I were in front of an audience or I just ask you, what would be some words that resonate with you, that have a sense of feeling that you get when you see that logo? What I'll just ask you, what would you say?
Well, of course, you start with fun.
Okay,
Always
fun.
Family.
Family.
Reliable. Responsible. Great customer service.
There you go. And if I were in front of thousands or 100 or one, those are some of the very same words. And so what makes a strong brand is that they have this unique promise of value. It's unique because it's just theirs. Let's take it to a person. You're unique. You hold your thumb up. No one else has the same thumbprint. So you have some very strong strengths and uniqueness. It's uncovering those as a person. The promise of value, you've got to have value or you wouldn't, a brand wouldn't be sticky, right? It wouldn't resonate with people.
Yeah, but I think that's where we kind of break down a lot of times.
Right.
I understand Sony, I understand Nike,
Okay.
Apple. There are a lot of brands I really understand. You know, when I see somebody on the tennis court and they've got the little swoosh, I think they pay for their clothes and they wear the best.
Right.
But then when it comes to personal brand, how does that look and why is that so important?
Well, it's important today because we just don't live in the same world we did in the workplace 30 years ago, 20 years ago, when maybe the company sort of took care of you. If you had a job and you went to work every day and you didn't make a lot of waves, you might retire from that job, maybe even get a gold watch, right? And so in 1997, Tom Peters wrote an article in Fast Company, and it was called "The Brand Called You." And he called out at that time saying, you know, folks, you as an individual person working in a company, you need to have as much of a brand as a person as the company you're working for has a brand. Because if you know your strengths and you have differentiations and you can figure out what makes you stand out from other people that kind of sort of do what you do, then it's not about the job title. It's about, why would I come to you when there are all these other people that do the same thing? What makes you different? And it's those differentiations, the values that you have also and live by, because those are your guiding lights, the things that are important to you. So it's who you are and what's important to you, and then demonstrating those strengths in the workplace. That's good for the company, and that's good for the individual person.
I really like that you said that. It's about what you stand for. So often we hear people talk about brand, more women I think than men, who will say, I'm building my brand. And it may be they're wearing a certain haircut now, or they're wearing a certain style of clothes, and that's their brand. But it's a lot different than that, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's not about spin, because I'm always surprised when people will call me and say, Valerie, I want you to help me build my brand, as if I'm going to change them. So the word authenticity is core to having a strong personal brand. Let me tell you a statistic that just blew me away. 50% of people who work today are not coming from a place of authenticity. And only 9% of the workforce is really fulfilled in what they do. Well, if we can bring our whole person to the workplace, we've got more energy, we're better, we're more productive. But unfortunately, some companies and some departments and some bosses try to mold you and make you into what they want you to be.
So true.
Isn't
it's
that
not
true?
that easy. It's just not easy, I think. I think it's very difficult for someone to stay with themselves.
Right.
We go to the workplace and we start thinking, what does everybody else look like? How am I supposed to look if I'm here? And I'm not necessarily talking about, did I wear the right outfit today?
Yeah.
What does this organization look like, and am I fitting in? And we lose ourselves, don't we?
Right. And so organizations today, firms today that really get it, understand that it's not counterintuitive to have the people be individually branded as the organization is, because then you've got an engine that won't stop. It's wonderful to say that there are hundreds of organizations now worldwide that I'm working in, along with colleagues who do what I do, that get it and that really embrace wanting to develop their people in a way that uses their strengths so that they can come from a place of consistency, clarity, and constancy. You know what that means?
What does that mean?
So, if a person has a strong brand, let's take, all right, this is out of the box, but Lady Gaga. I mean, she's pretty strongly branded, right? Okay.
She does
Is she consistent? The 3 C's. Is she consistent in her brand? You bet she is. She's very clear on who she is, right? Is she constant? Is she constantly showing her consistency out in the marketplace? Yes, she is, to the people who are her target audience. In other words, you got to focus on finding those target audiences or those people around you that are going to be influencers for you to communicate your brand to, whether it's internally in an organization or not. So consistency, constancy, and what was the third one I just said? Consistency, constancy, and clarity. Thank you. Clarity, being really clear on what your brand is and standing for it, standing for something.
Yeah, I like that, and there's a little bit of a fine line here, I think. You know, obviously, we all want to be branded as being trustworthy.
Yes.
We may want to be branded, depending on where we are, as always being on time.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be the go-to person. That's a little bit more unique.
Mm-hmm.
So I think brand is more than, obviously, you want to be trustworthy, and that has to be constant and consistent. You want to be clear about it. But then some of these more unique brands that we want to develop, like I'm the creative, I'm the idea person.
Okay.
How do I establish that in an organization that that's what I really want? I want people to know I'm the idea person. Obviously, they got to trust me, but how do I establish that different uniqueness about my brand?
Well, I'll give you a true story about a woman that was in IT in an organization, and she was creative, but now her job was very technical, right? And she asked that very same question. She happened to be also, besides being an out-of-the-box thinker, which you sometimes need to be in IT, right? She also had a passion. It's great when you can bring your passions into the workplace. Hers was health and fitness. She worked out all the time. So we got to talking about this with her, and she came up with the idea of going to her boss, which she did, and saying, you know, at noon, we've got the conference room over here that's completely empty, and there's plenty of room. Could I pass the word around that at lunchtime we'll do maybe some yoga classes or some stretching classes? And I love to do this. I'll come in and I'll do it. And so people started coming at lunch hour to get some stretching and some exercise. And she thought, well, that was good. And then she took it a step further and she went down to the cafeteria people. And she said, could I help you put some different things on the menu that might be really healthy, healthier, right? And so she worked with them. She even got, at the end of it, some recipes that they called her name. It was, you know, Mary's this, that, or the other. And so she became known as the creative health person, and it had nothing to do with her technical job that she did every day. So we got to think about it.
And how is that important in the workplace? How did that serve her in the workplace? She's a technician, but she has this brand identity that really has nothing to do with being a technician. So why was that important?
Because didn't it give her a lot of visibility? So part of having a strong brand is then how do you communicate it, right? So Elaine, you can have a strong brand internally. What about externally? Are you visible to your target audience, or are you visible online even? Today we've got to have a strong brand identity online just like we do face-to-face. So it created much more visibility for her. It created much more productivity and passion in her job because she was bringing some of who she was as a whole person.
And by the way,
workplace.
somebody in the organization may say, I have an IT problem. Who can I go to? Oh, that fitness girl, she does it.
There you go.
And then suddenly she has a plethora of new contacts.
That's exactly right. So what do you want to be known for? Here's another thing I think is very important, Elaine. Too many times people will try to be all things to all people. I did this. I mean, we've all fallen into that trap. But think about, who are you at your core and what do you want to be known for? So it's about being selectively famous, not being famous.
Right. And you were going down the path of having an online presence. Wow, is that a new thing that we're all trying to deal with? We've all heard what you shouldn't do on Facebook and what you shouldn't do on a lot of these social media venues, but how do you build a strong online presence, and why should I as an individual build an online presence?
Because people are Googling you, whether you like it or not. If I'm in front of an audience, I will say, how many of you have Googled yourself recently? A few people. And then I'll say, well, how many of you have Googled someone else today? Every hand goes up, right? So we are being looked at online. We're being looked at for our expertise when someone is looking for someone that is an expert in personal branding or professional presence, or LinkedIn is critical. In the business world, every single person should be on LinkedIn. That's where business people go to find people they're looking for with an expertise.
And that's not about a resume either. That's not about looking for a job. I think people have a misunderstanding about that.
You know, one of the things I've found that's really beneficial for me on LinkedIn is joining particular groups, again, focusing on not being famous, but selectively famous. And so I have purposely selected groups that I've become a part of, and then I can learn from people who are in the same industry I'm in. I can post my thoughts and ideas. And again, so now I have visibility to show my credibility.
Absolutely. And now another question about, this sort of fits that whole online thing. What is a video bio?
Video bio. It's the greatest thing. So a video bio, when you think about, we send bios out all the time. But what if you had a prospect, or you were sending a proposal out to someone, and you said, and if you'd like to know more about me as your representative, or as whatever it is, check out my video bio. And it gives you an opportunity to visually say whatever it is you want to say to the person as your bio, rather than just sending a hard copy. Now I want to tell you something also that happened. This was with a partner in one of the big 4 firms. And he got it, right? And he sent out a bio along with a proposal. And the client, who didn't know him but had talked by phone, said, you know what, that was very unique. And I got a lot out of that, and he won the business. There's just something more relational with a video bio. So it's the next thing. Video is where it's at. You know that.
Well, technology's done so much for us.
Yes.
And you know, it's easy to think about why Valerie should have a video bio, because Valerie's out speaking and gaining speaking engagements. And so, of course, if I want to sample what you're like, I can just go see your video. Right. But I like the example you gave. Here's an executive who sends out his message in form of a video, and he won the business.
He won the business. And you know where else you can put a video bio? I have it on my signature line. If you get an email from me, it'll say, you know, sincerely Valerie, click here to listen to my video bio. And if they want to know something about Valerie, it's right there in my signature line in email.
A lot of interesting things to think about. And you know, I have to think, be careful what we put in those video bios. Don't just do it for fun. I mean, we can always have fun, but it really does need to represent your brand. Go all the way back to what is your personal brand.
Right.
If you do that video bio and it doesn't represent your personal brand, it could really get you in trouble, I would guess.
And one more thing to add to that, which is everything, take a look at everything in your brand environment, not only communicating externally with face-to-face people, who you are and your brand, your strong brand, but also thinking about everything in our whole environment. In other words, the car that we drive, the desk where we work, what's around us, the clothing that we wear. Our presence is very much a part of our brand. How we speak, how we conduct meetings, how we answer the telephone. So it's really taking a look at, am I aligned with everything I do and say with the brand that I am? And then you'll create that strong brand too.
Yeah, and a final thought about that, going all the way back to the beginning, when you say people come to you, help me develop my brand.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of us do step back and say, well, what is my brand? And so we do have to give some personal thought and time to developing the brand identity we want. We know who we are.
Right.
But what are those important things we want to have stand out? And I'm guessing you would have some really good tips for how to identify and make those stand out.
Well, and to that point, it is a process. When I give speaking engagements, I'm always amazed if someone says, okay, I got it, I think I can do it now. No, it's a little bit more to it, right? And so it is a process of taking people through certain aspects of what to think about, how to reframe ideas, and really unearth the wonderfulness that's you. And I think I'm not being prejudiced. I honestly believe this. It takes an outside perspective to help you uncover all of that with you. And then in the process, by the way, there is a 360. And it's called the REACH, which is the organization I'm affiliated with. William Arruda put it together 10 years ago. And he developed this 360 brand assessment. And when you send that out, the feedback you get is what other people perceive you as your brand. Because my brand lives in the hearts and the minds of other people. I may not really know all of the things that will come back in that 360. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, that sounds like one very interesting tool that could be a help to get on the way to developing your brand.
Right.
And I think the important thing is just remember, we all need to develop that brand. It's
Right.
not going to happen overnight. Nothing that is worthwhile comes easy or quick. But I think these are some really good tips, and I appreciate all the information. Any final points about brand and building a personal brand?
Just that word, authenticity. Just be who you are and be proud of it. And stick to your values. Live your values. They're your guiding light. You can't go wrong.
Absolutely. Well, Valerie tells us to be authentic and stick to our values. I can't think of any better tips than that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this as much as I have, and you'll go away and give some serious thought to building your personal brand. Thank you.